Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Sorry for the last-minute change in venue, but if the World Series can have weather issues, I guess we can too. Again, thank you for coming out. My name is Paul Avalar. I'm a senior attorney with the Institute for Justice. Today with me are Ryan Koopmans of Nyemaster Good and my colleagues who you'll be hearing from in just a moment. We're here today to talk about a new case that the Institute for Justice has launched here in Iowa. The Institute for Justice was founded in 1991, and amongst the things that we fight for are economic liberty. In fact, our very first case was on behalf of a group of Washington, D.C. braiders who were challenging a law that required them to get useless training in order to practice a craft that they had already done. We recognized at the time that this case, braiders, showed how many government laws were hurting American workers and entrepreneurs who just wanted to earn an honest living to support themselves and their family, but were being stopped because of these government rules. Since then, the Institute for Justice has taken up cases across the country on behalf of braiders, and just last year we renewed our efforts with our national hair braiding initiative, in which we launched challenges in another 3 states, and we have so far won 2 of those 3 cases, and we're currently litigating the 3rd. Today in America, 13 states, braiders don't require a license of any kind in order to braid hair. In another 4 states, they require only a very simple license to braid hair. But that leaves too many braiders in too many states still subject to onerous rules and regulations that don't serve any public purpose, they don't serve any public good, they only harm braiders. Unfortunately, Iowa is still one of those states, and so today to talk about our efforts in Iowa, I'd like to introduce to you my colleague who will be leading our effort in Iowa, Megan Forbes. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Megan Forbes. That's M-E-A-G-A-N-F-O-R-B-E-S, and I'm an attorney at the Institute for Justice. We're here today because Iowa forces African-style hair braiders to spend hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to get a cosmetology license that has nothing to do with African-style hair braiding. That's why Icheria and Ashan filed a lawsuit challenging the state's licensing requirements for African-style hair braiders. African-style hair braiding is a form of natural hair care. It's been safely practiced for thousands of years. Icheria and Ashan want to earn a living braiding hair in Iowa, but in Iowa it's illegal without a cosmetology license. Iowa forces braiders to spend as much as $22,000 to complete over 2,000 hours of cosmetology training. While in cosmetology school, braiders will learn skills like how to do manicures, facials, and haircuts. One skill they will not learn is how to braid hair. We filed this lawsuit because Icheria and Ashan have a constitutional right to earn a living free from irrational licensing laws. Iowa has no business licensing something as safe and common as hair braiding. The state can't force braiders to take on thousands of dollars in debt to learn skills that they already know. This lawsuit has been filed on behalf of braiders and workers across the state. But a victory in this case will help all entrepreneurs in Iowa. A victory in this case will help protect the ability of Icheria, Ashan, and entrepreneurs across the state to turn the American dream into reality. At this point, I'd like to introduce Icheria Bell, one of the plaintiffs in this case, and then you will hear from Ashan Agit after. Thank you.
Hello, how you guys doing? Thank you all for coming out and hearing us out. I'd just like to talk about some of the challenges that I'm facing. I am actually working in fear. I have to work as an assistant, and when I can actually open up my own business and actually hire other people. But with the state burdens, it's overbearing. I just want to work and make a living for my family and to teach braiding and to be able to give back to my community. I'm not trying to not pay taxes or break any laws. I just want to live the way that God gave me the right and the talent. I learned to braid when I was 3, and I was probably a professional by age 10. in cosmetology school, for me, the curriculum is a British or a French curriculum. I am practicing African braiding. It's our heritage, it's our culture. And I don't think that something as the requirements that they're asking for is not what I will be actually doing in my right to choose the occupation that I would like to do. So I'm just asking the state to help us change those laws, to help us to be able to earn our rights as to earn a honest living. You know, in the states that was promised to us in our liberties. So I don't think that I'm asking for something that would hurt the state. It would actually help. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Agit. Thank you all for being here today. Uh, here, we're just here to ask the state of Iowa to help us on what God gave us to do. I am from Africa, and that's what I've been doing since when I was young. I left Sudan 2001, and I live in Egypt. It's because of hair braiding. That's how I survived to come to the United States, pay my rent, support from my sibling back home, also in the United States, and that's what I'm still doing until now. And it's too scary to be threatened that if you keep doing hair behind the law, you will get in trouble. So I'm so thankful today that there is some people that still care to let us get what we ask for. Thank you.
We're now happy to take any questions that you may have, or if you want to talk to us individually, that's great as well, whatever you guys would like to do. Megan?
We have two plaintiffs. These two, yes. Yes. We thought that these two plaintiffs represented the issues very well, and this lawsuit will benefit all braiders. So, Ichuria Bell and Ashan Agit are our plaintiffs. Ichuria actually called our office. Yeah. Yeah, and then Ashan knew that we had reached out with Ichuria, and she was interested as well. Sure. Well, Iowa's licensing laws are among the worst in the country. Iowa licenses more workers than any other state, from travel agents to athletic trainers to makeup artists to hair braiders. This case, we hope, will force the state to have to take a long, hard look at its licensing laws. Definitely hundreds, if not thousands. There's a large Sudanese community here in Iowa, and it's definitely an important issue within both the African American and African communities. Well, every case that we've filed the case to litigate the case, and we can't control if the legislature wants to take on this issue. In the past, the legislature has decided not to take up this issue. There have been 2 bills in the past, but the legislature wasn't interested in taking up the issue and changing the law. I can only speak to Ichuria and Ashan, and I know that when braiders call the board and inquire about whether they need a license, they're told that they need to get a license, and many braiders live and work in fear every day because they just don't know. The penalties that could arise include criminal penalties and being fined as much as $1,000 per infraction up to $10,000. Any other questions? Sure. Sure. Would you like to hear from Ichuria? Ichuria, why don't you talk about your experience here?
Yes, I attended Regency Beauty Institute in Minneapolis. I got well over 900 hours. You know, my frustrating point came when I was just not learning anything about what I wanted to do, you know, and I spent a lot of money, and I spent a lot of time away from my daughter and away from earning a living to pay for us. So I decided to leave, and I went down to Atlanta, and I started working under a natural hairstylist and learned how to really perfect my craft in natural hair care and braiding. So. Well, right now I'm working at a salon, but I'm assisting at I'm an assistant stylist at Paparazzi Hair Studio and Spa. If I didn't have to be an assistant, I could run my own business and I could be my own boss. You know, right now I can only do certain things as a braider, so my income is limited. At Regency Beauty Institute at the time, that was in 2010, it was about 17,000. And then that 918 hours, and I would be in school from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. And at the time, my daughter was just 3. So after daycare, you know, I had to pay for daycare and pay for, you know, people to keep her while I work at night. You know, so I was not getting any time with her and nurturing her the way she needed to be nurtured because I was in school and then I was working at night. And now the things that I was, you know, had to, once I started working in the salon, it was nothing that I was doing. I wasn't relaxing. I wasn't perming. I wasn't cutting natural hair or the hair on people's hair. If there was any of those things, it always involved extensions. So, yeah. Yes, out in Texas, Isis Brantley. She has a school of the Institute of Ancestral Braiding. Well, you could go there and definitely get the skills you need. I don't know about that part of it. We would probably have to refer to my lawyers for that.
I'm happy to answer that question for you. None of that training counts toward Iowa's 2,100 hour training requirement. Ichuria, for example, has received 900 hours of cosmetology training in Minnesota, and she's also studied under braiders in Georgia and in Texas, and none of her training qualifies for Iowa's cosmetology training. Mm-hmm.
Maybe as low as $35, as high as $280. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing. There's different types of people that just get their natural hair braided, and then there's people that get extensions. And so just depending on the type of extension, the expense could go, you know, well over it depends on who you're going to. Some people charge up to 500 to thousands of dollars for certain braids. So it just really depends on the style.
If this all done word of mouth, how does business get conducted in Iowa?
Well, I mean, braiding is a cultural thing. It's a heritage thing. So it is word of mouth. People know who does braiding. You can get your hair braided at home, or you can, find a salon, or you'll see someone with braids and say, oh, well, who did your braids? And they'll say, oh, Cherry at Paparazzi, or, things like that. Yeah, I see it as like anti competitive regulations that are keeping, it's just a way to kind of keep the competitive from certain cosmetologists and stuff like that, I think. It's a way to corner the market and keep certain people out. I mean, braiders could be easily a Vidal Sassoon or a Paul Mitchell, if we didn't have certain barriers in the way.
If I could follow up on that last question, actually, the Institute for Justice has been doing these cases for now 24 years. And what we found is a lot of times the laws are in place and no one actually realized that they were in place. No one understood that that's what the law requires. And then once people learn, either they're horrified and they want to change the law, or, in a lot of cases, people don't see the licensing problem. It's just you just have to go to school, without really understanding what's really there and the real financial and time toll that these sorts of requirements across the board take on workers and entrepreneurs in all sorts of occupations. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. We don't know what the industry in Iowa will say. In other instances, they have opposed us.
The lawsuit is filed against the State Cosmetology Board, and we've also named its members in their official capacities. We think we have a strong case. We do have a track record of winning these cases. We've filed 12 cases, and so far we've won 11, and we have one pending right now in Missouri. Well, a constitutional challenge is always challenging. Well, there have been two efforts at the legislature to change the law, and we can't speak to what the board's position was at that time, but the law has not changed.
But sometimes the court will say you have exhausted your administrative remedies, and so cost the lawsuit because of that.
Oh.
That's why I was asking if you've approached the board from an administrative or a regulatory approach to see if they would exempt this or change their law.
Well, their constitutional rights are being violated right now, and they don't have to exhaust administrative remedies to bring a constitutional challenge. We filed this case, and we are claiming that that the state's cosmetology licensing laws impair their ability to earn a living free from irrational government regulation. Yes, it would have to be the legislature. It's written in a statute within the cosmetology licensing laws.